Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
Hey everyone, welcome into The Process, Crimson Tide Recruiting. I am your host, Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on our YouTube for a new episode of The Process. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. Subscribers, make sure you are notified when content drops on our YouTube page by hitting that notification bell. I am here each week to break down the latest in Crimson Tide football recruiting news. On today's episode, I want to talk about a couple of guys who I feel the Crimson Tide are favorite to land at the moment in the 2023 recruiting class. Before I get an opportunity to dive into that discussion, I do want to provide you guys some other recruiting updates, but I want to remind you also that you guys can leave a recruiting question via voicemail on our voicemail line at 205-984-3222. Call that number, leave your recruiting question via voicemail. Your question could be answered on a later episode of The Process. The number will be located on the screen throughout the duration of today's show. Like I said, I want to start things off by talking about a couple of recruiting updates when it comes to a couple of the Tide targets in the 2023 and 2024 recruiting class. We're going to start things off with the 2023 recruit and four-star outside linebacker Russo out of Carver Montgomery High School in Montgomery, Alabama. I recently had an opportunity to travel to Montgomery to check on Russo and his teammate, five-star defensive tackle James Smith at Madhouse Training. When I spoke to Russo, he said that he plans to visit Alabama really soon. He also said he wants to drop a top 10 pretty soon as well. When you take a look at his recruitment, I think he wants to take things a little bit slower than other guys. I talked about other guys on previous episodes of The Process, and I've said that they want to commit before their senior seasons, and those are usually guys who are dropping a top 4, top 5, smaller top schools list at the moment. But like I said, with Russo, he wants to drop a top 10 pretty soon, so his recruitment is taking a little bit of a slower pace. When you take a look at him and James Smith's recruitment, I sort of compare it to Curtis Perry in the 2022 recruiting class. As you guys know, Perry waited all the way to the early signing period to make a decision. He slowly released top school lists. So when you take a look at Russo and Smith, I think both of those guys will take that approach, but I feel Alabama's in a good position with both. But switching our focus to James Smith, the 2023 five-star defensive tackle who will play his senior season at Carver Montgomery High School in Montgomery, Alabama, currently standing at 6'4", weighing approximately 300 pounds, one of the more aggressive defensive tackles in this 2023 recruiting class. It's taking a look at James Smith's recruitment, similar to, like I said, Russo. He's taking that slow approach. He wants to drop an even bigger top school list. He's looking at dropping possibly a top 12. So like I said, both of these guys want to take their time with their recruitment. Smith said he is high on Alabama at the moment, has a lot of respect for the Crimson Tide's defensive line coach Freddie Roach. Said that he knows that when you go to Alabama, you're going to win. You're going to work hard and win. You guys can learn a little bit more about Smith's and Russo's recruitment, some of the other programs recruiting them in stories over at touchdownalabama.com. You guys can watch our feature as well on James Smith on our YouTube page. We'll drop a feature on Russo over the next couple of days as well, so be sure to check out those pieces on our main website at touchdownalabama.com and on our YouTube page that you guys are watching now. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay updated. Now I'm going to talk about a couple of 2024 prospects to the Crimson Tide are recruiting. And we're going to start with King Joseph Edwards, a four-star athlete in the 2024 recruiting class out of Georgia. Played a little bit of tight end and defensive end during his sophomore season at 6'5" and approximately 240 pounds. I think his natural position will be on the defensive side of football, most likely as an edge rusher at that defensive end position on the defensive side of football. So I think he has a lot of potential in terms of what he could do at the next level. Picked up an offer for the Crimson Tide on March 24th. Had an opportunity to visit Alabama on Wednesday for the first time since picking up that offer. He told me that he was blown away by his conversation with Nick Saban. He told me that Saban impressed him without even talking about football. He said they talked strictly about academics and about some of the things that the Alabama program does for their players off the field, away from football, that helps them succeed after the game is over and after their football career is over. So he was really impressed with his conversation with Nick Saban. Also had an opportunity to watch Alabama practice. Said he was really impressed with the way that Saban coached that practice. He said he was hard, but he said he wasn't disrespectful. He said he had seen other coaches be disrespectful and rude to guys when they are basically trying to make them have confidence in what they are doing on the football field. But when you took a look at Saban, watching him practice with the Alabama football team, he said that Saban did that in a respectful way and definitely pumped his guys up as well. So Saban was the highlight of King Joseph Everett's visit to Alabama. Again, that visit was on Wednesday as the Crimson Tide's coaching staff tries to build a relationship with the four-star athlete in the 2024 recruiting class. Another 2024 prospect out of Georgia who the Crimson Tide have their eyes on is five-star linebacker Sammy Brown. I think he will be listed as a five-star before this 2024 recruiting class by multiple recruiting sites. Before this 2024 recruiting cycle is over. Again, the 2024 class is not even the full priority for most coaching staffs at the moment. So I think he will be a five-star across the board, most likely in the future. Taking a look at what he brings to the table for Jefferson County High School in Jefferson, Georgia. He played on both sides of the football at running back and at linebacker. Although he played 6.5 games, he put together a pretty decent sophomore season. Just taking a look at some of his stats, he had a lot of rushing yards, great tackles. When you take a look at what he was able to do from the running back position, he's the guy who got into the open field and he did not get caught at any time. He had to show some great top speed. When you take a look at Sammy Brown, who was able to do on the defensive side of football, very physical, a guy who was able to time the snap of the football at times to get into the backfield to make some explosive plays. So Sammy Brown is a guy to watch out for in the 2024 recruiting class in terms of being one of the top linebackers in that class, one of the top linebackers in the state of Georgia. Nick Saban offered him. He said he was a bit confused when he got the offer. He said he did not know he had an offer because he felt that Saban worded it weird. He had to confirm it with Pete Golding, but said once he had that confirmed, he was really excited to get an offer from a program like Alabama, like King Joseph Everett. So he had an opportunity to watch Alabama practice as well. Said he was impressed with the way that they practiced. He said there was no chitter chatter, there was no silliness, of straight business, no music playing. It was straight work, and he said he really respected that when he took a look at the way that the Crimson Tide practiced under Nick Saban. So Sammy Brown is a 2024 linebacker at Jefferson County High School in Jefferson, Georgia to know in the future. We're going to talk about another Georgia prospect as well when we talk about Cam Davis, a 2024 five-star running back out of Georgia. When you take a look at Cam Davis's recruitment, he's currently committed to Florida State. Although he's a 2024 prospect, just finished up his sophomore season of high school football, he's been verbally committed to the Florida State Seminoles for pretty much a year. So it looks as if he's solid to the Seminoles, but his recruitment still has a long way to go. And the Crimson Tide are making sure that he knows that they want him. When you take a look at what he brings to the table, currently standing at 5'11", weighing approximately 200 pounds, a physical, running back, but that is not the position that he plays at his high school at the moment. He actually plays quarterback, and he's a pretty decent quarterback, which is why he's listed as an athlete on some recruiting sites. But I think he's going to play running back at the next level for sure. When you take a look at what he brings in the open field, he can make some deadly moves, basically shake the defenders out of their shoes with the moves that he's able to make in the open field, along with that physicality, along with some great top-end speed. So I think Cam Davis brings a lot to the table as a five-star running back in the 2024 class, who the Tide are really interested in, currently committed to Florida State. We'll see how that plans out in the future with them being committed so long, how he will basically navigate things with them being a Seminoles commit. But now we're going to switch our focus, like I said, beginning of the show, to guys who I feel the Crimson Tide lead for at the moment, or are favored to land at the moment in the 2023 recruiting class. And I'm going to start my list by talking about Pierre, a four-star defensive end out of Eufaula High School in Eufaula, Alabama. As you guys know, those of you who have been following the Crimson Tide's 2023 recruiting efforts so far, the state is extremely loaded from top to bottom. And like I said on the last episode of the process, when I talked about Pierre, I think he's a guy who gets a little bit overlooked, but he is a prospect who I feel the Crimson Tide are high on. He's equally high on them. In a recent interview with me, he told me that Alabama was at the top of his recruitment because of the bond that he has with their coaching staff and the bond that he has with some of their players as well. Talked a lot about his last visit to Tuscaloosa. Told me that he had an opportunity to meet a couple of the Tide's new coaches and also just continue to build his relationship with them. He does plan to be back on the campus of the University of Alabama next weekend for the Tide A-Day game, so I definitely think he's a prospect to keep your eyes on. And in my opinion, I feel that Alabama is right at the top. Basically said they are at the top, and if he was to make a decision today, I think it would be the Crimson Tide. Looking at what he brings on the football field, currently standing at 6'4", an extremely athletic edge rusher, a guy with one of the quickest first steps in terms of timing the football in this recruiting cycle, in my opinion. Just taking a look at his film, what he was able to do for Eufaula High School, you see how he was able to quickly get into the backfield, use his long frame, use his length to his advantage, as he was able to basically knock some balls down the line of scrimmage as well. So Pierre is the first guy I feel that the Crimson Tide are favored to land at the moment, along with another in-state prospect and Peter Woods, who is a 5-star defensive end out of Thompson High School in Alabaster, Alabama, recently released a top 4, included the Tide, Florida, Oklahoma, and Clemson. If you had to make a decision today, I feel Alabama would get his commitment. I just feel that he has such a great amount of respect for the program. Grew up an Alabama fan. Crimson Tide really like him, have been recruiting him for a couple of years now. With them being at Thompson High School and living in Alabama, he has had an opportunity to visit Tuscaloosa so many times over the last couple of months, even after the football season during the spring. So I feel Alabama continues to be in a great position with them. Unlike Russo and James Smith, he is one of those guys who want to make a decision before their senior season begins. So I feel that Alabama will get his commitment if I had to make a prediction today. So Peter Woods is a guy I feel Alabama will land in this 2023 recruiting cycle at the moment. But now we're going to talk about some guys outside the state of Alabama, some out-of-state recruits who I feel the Crimson Tide lead for at the moment. And we're going to first start in the Sunshine State, and we're going to talk about 4-star defensive back Makari Vickers out of St. John Paul II Catholic High School in Tallahassee, Florida. He does not have a top school list at the moment, but I still feel comfortable saying Alabama is at the top of his recruitment and saying that the Crimson Tide lead for him. Taking a look at some of the visits that he has taken to Alabama, you can make an argument that there's not many schools involved in his recruitment that he has visited more than Tuscaloosa. Just taking a look at those visits, he visited and camped in Alabama in June. Actually tested really well, went a 4.49 40-yard dash. Returned in September for a visit. Also got back to campus in January for the Crimson Tide's Junior Day event during that month. He's set to visit again next weekend for the Crimson Tide's A-Day game on April 16th. So the Crimson Tide has been a staple in his recruitment for the last couple of months. He has a good relationship with the Crimson Tide's coaching staff, including their new defensive back coach, Travaris Robinson, who met Makari Vickers in person for the first time since joining Alabama's coaching staff in January. They actually had a previous relationship during his time in Miami. He said he has a lot of respect for Travaris Robinson in terms of the way that he has developed defensive backs in the past. I forget the number off the top of my head, but he basically, when I interviewed him after that visit, he rattled off the number of NFL defensive backs that Travaris Robinson has worked with during his coaching career. So he has a lot of respect for not only Coach Saban, but other members of Alabama's coaching staff, including Travaris Robinson. In my opinion, when you take a look at Vickers' game and his skill set, currently standing at 6'2" and weighing approximately 180 pounds. I think he's one of the more complete, one of the more versatile defensive backs in this class. Could be a cornerback, could be a cornerback, could be a safety at the next level. So Makari Vickers, in my opinion, is a guy who the Crimson Tide lead for, along with Olas Aina. Every time I talk about him, I feel like I talk about him on every show, but he's one of the Crimson Tide's top offensive line targets. And when you talk about guys who I feel Alabama lead for, I have to throw him in that discussion. Recently visited Alabama, said it was a great visit. Will be back in Tuscaloosa on June 10th for an official visit. He's one of those prospects who wants to announce a decision before his senior season begins. So I feel at the moment that visit in June will go a long way in the Crimson Tide being the possible destination for Olas Aina. At the moment, I feel comfortable saying they are at the top of his recruitment. Taking a look at what he brings to the table, currently standing at 6'7", projected to be an offensive tackle at the next level. Next level mobility, can easily get to the next level in terms of the linebackers when he's blocking, an aggressive blocker, guy who finishes blocks as well. So Olas Aina is another one of those prospects who I feel Alabama is right in a good position with. Comfortable saying they are the favorite at the moment. The last prospect I want to talk about is Jaden Wayne, a 5-star defensive end out of Lincoln High School in Tacoma, Washington. Recently took a visit to the University of Alabama, was actually on campus over the weekend, and just flat out told me that Alabama was at the top of his recruitment because he feels that they have a system for developing players. Also has a lot of trust in what Coach Saban is telling him. He says when Saban tells him that he's going to be a first-round draft pick, or he could be a first-round draft pick and going to do great things at the next level in terms of the college football level and in the NFL, says he believes him. He said he does not feel that he's lying to him. He has a lot of trust in what Coach Saban is telling him. So Jaden Wayne said that Alabama's at the top of his recruitment, which is why he's included in this list. I think he's going to take an official visit during the summer to the University of Alabama. He does not have any official visits set at the moment, but in the past he did tell me they want to start taking his official visits during the summer. He has not said he wanted to make a decision before his senior season begins, but I feel that he could be leaning towards that. That is something I'll watch out for in terms of the next step in his recruitment. Again, he is a 5-star defensive end out of Lincoln High School in Tacoma, Washington. Before I close out today's show, I do want to provide you guys with a list of recruits who will visit Alabama pretty soon, starting with A-Day weekend. I talked about a couple of those guys when I discussed guys who I feel Alabama's favorite for at the moment. When you take a look at Pierre and also Makari Vickers, they will be joined by 5-star running back Richard Young in the 2023 recruiting class, one of the top running backs in that particular recruiting cycle, along with 2024 quarterback DJ Lagway, who plans to also be in Tuscaloosa. Another top 2023 wide receiver and Brandon Ennis will be in Tuscaloosa as well. So A-Day will be a big weekend for the Crimson Tide on the field, as Alabama fans will get an opportunity to get a preview of their squad next season. But some of the top recruits in the nation will also be in Tuscaloosa as well. So it's shaping up to be a pretty big recruiting weekend. This weekend will also give the Crimson Tide an opportunity to host some top recruits as well, including an in-state offensive lineman to pay attention to keep your eyes on, continue to keep your eyes on. I've talked about him a couple of times on the process in the past. I'm talking about Kobe Keenum, the 2023 offensive lineman out of Marcel Bible High School in Florence, Alabama. The Crimson Tide have hosted him a couple of times over the last couple of months, including a couple of times during the season and during the summer. He camped there, but with the Crimson Tide hiring a new offensive line coach in Eric Wolford, who has a relationship with Keenum dating back to his time at Kentucky, Keenum now is a prospect to watch out for inside the state, a guy who does not have an offer, who could have an offer in the future. But taking a look at some guys who are a little bit higher rated in this 2023 recruiting cycle who plan to be in Tuscaloosa on the weekend, you have 5-star outside linebacker Malik Bryan, who has visited Alabama a couple of times over the last couple of months as well. Plans to announce a commitment actually on July 23rd. Also wants to announce a top school list here pretty soon during the month of May. So we'll see if the Crimson Tide will be listed in that top school list. I feel they will be. He will be on campus this weekend. Now hopefully for the Crimson Tide, that visit will give them an opportunity to secure that spot in his top, so among his top school list during the month of May. Another prospect in the 2023 recruiting cycle, a top prospect who will be in Tuscaloosa, is Bay Jobe. If you guys have not had an opportunity to watch his film, be sure to watch it when you get some free time. He has one of the more impressive films in this 2023 recruiting cycle. Very long, athletic defensive back, a guy who actually has a basketball background. Just taking a look at his film, you just can see an all-around athlete. The Crimson Tide will have an opportunity to host them this weekend, and we will see how that goes in terms of the way that they can possibly improve their position in this recruitment. But that is what I wanted to talk about on today's episode of The Process. Be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to hit that subscribe button while you are here. Subscribers, make sure that your notifications are turning on by hitting that notification bell. Then head over to touchdownalabama.com. Pick up your subscription today. With that subscription, you will be able to read all of our subscriber-only articles. Get your hands on our yearly print magazine issue. Then head to the Google Play Store if you have an Android device to download the Touchdown Alabama app. If you have an Apple device, download the app in the Apple App Store. As always, I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama.
Process.